Hello and welcome to Brave Conversations. I'm your host, Sheila B. This podcast is all about helping you get brave, courageous and confident to make real and lasting changes in your life so that, yes, you are living your truth. I'm here to help you navigate your spiritual awakening, to guide you how to heal from trauma in your past and to manifest the life that you know you deserve. You are powerful, you are divine, and I'm here to remind you that you can achieve anything that you want in your life. I am a transformation coach, a spiritual teacher, a business mentor, a speaker, an author, and a badass brave woman. And I am obsessed with women bravely and courageously showing up to live their life with no apologies. And I cannot wait to get into today's episode with you. Welcome to this episode where I will share with you all my knowledge about spirit guides. I am passionate about this topic because I'm a spiritual teacher, a medium. And one of the most common questions I get asked is, who are my spirit guides and how do I connect to them? And the reason why I'm so passionate about this topic is because when we have a spiritual awakening, one of the first things that we experience, it's called an ascension symptom, is the need to connect to spirit guides. It's the need to really understand what and who are these energies around us and how do I connect to them? How do I make my own connection to my spirit team? And when I first had my spiritual awakening, it was such a confusing time. Like, can you relate to this? Like, I had a corporate job. I was on my way to being a finance director and executive, and I'd invested in an MBA. I was, really educated, studying, and high performing corporate employee. Yet I had this spiritual side, like this part of me that I wanted to hide or I didn't really know how to be with. And so I felt a lot of inner conflict, and also felt like I had to keep this corporate side separate to my spiritual side. Now, many years on, over a decade on, I realized they're absolutely not separate. And owning and embracing our spirituality is the way to build spiritual self-esteem. And I coined this phrase spiritual self-esteem because when you build spiritual self-esteem, you start owning your power. You start believing and connecting in the guides around you. And then when you do, you get an amplification of guidance, of downloads. Your dreams start becoming more vivid and signs and synchronicity open up. Okay. So that's why I'm passionate about teaching this, because it is one of the ways to really start owning and embracing your spiritual path into a place of real empowerment. Okay. So firstly, what are spirit guides? Well, spirit guides are energies, disincarnate entities that don't have a physical body. Now, there's a really good chance that your spirit guide team may have incarnated on Earth, or they may not have. There are many different types of guides, which I will talk about in a second, but having a spirit team around you is a team of guidance to support you to fulfill your soul contract. So what is a soul contract? A soul contract is the contract that you made before you came down to earth. And it's filled with the soul lessons. And it's also filled with the soul gifts, the things that you're here to use and amplify to expand yourself and also possibly expand humanity. And a spirit team is around you to make sure you are on track, right? And that's why having guides around us, we sometimes get course corrections or we get told intuitive hits to go, make a decision that we may not ordinarily have made. So connecting with your guides, I find, has kept me very aligned to the path that I need to go on. So people ask me, Sheila, what's the difference between spirit guides and your higher self? Well, the spirit guides are the intermediary between you and your higher self. The ultimate is, of course, to connect to our higher self. Of course, we want to be channeling pure from higher self. So higher self is very much oneness or universal energy. Everyone's higher self is equal. I mean, we're all equal. However, the higher self is vibrating at the same frequency for everybody, and it's connected into the universe. When we are in a low frequency state, we do need to access guides to pull our vibration up. And sometimes those high frequencies can be a little too high for us to connect into, or we're a little too low for them to come down and connect to us. And that's why we have spirit guides at different frequency levels to help us climb up the ladder of frequency, right? So the guides that were supporting me on my spiritual path many years ago no longer would serve me now. They've probably moved on. And I've invited in more guides of a frequency match now, or more guides arrive to support me as I serve more clients, as I write my second book. So you'll have a guide change depending on what you're doing in life, and also the frequency upgrades you go through. So that's a little bit about spirit guides. I now want to chat to you about the different types of guides. Okay. So there are 8 classifications. The classifications are way broader, but I'm going to speak about the 8 main classifications. So the first is we have a master guide. So a master guide is a guide who has come into working with us from conception through to death. So the minute you're conceived, the master guide is there and they're guiding you all the way through life. A lot of my students and clients say to me when they meet the master guide, there's this absolute recognition. And that's what happened to me when I met my master guide. There was this knowing that they'd been around, a real knowing of their energy, their signature energy. I felt like, yes, I felt you around for many years and I just didn't know what that was. But when you awaken, you start to get a lot more clairvoyance, audient, feeling, knowings become a lot more clearer. So the master guide is here, like I said, to help you fulfill your soul contract, help you through your soul challenges, amplify your soul gifts. And there's a very good chance that your master guide and you have a contract to work together. You may have known each other in a past life, or there's just a soul contract in this lifetime, like, hey, let's hang out and let's both lift our vibration together and learn some big lessons and evolve. So fundamentally we're here to evolve. Okay. So the second type of guide is like the gatekeeper guide. The gatekeeper guide is also another word for a protection guide. When I was in my corporate job, I would invite in the protection guide to stand in between me and anyone that I was struggling energetically with. Protection guide helps you from traveling too deep when you're meditating, or you might use a protection guide when you're working with clients and you're feeling the energy is a little tough, or you're having a lot of guides from the client come through and you need them ordered. So I feel like the protection guide is like a sergeant or like a soldier. They're here to just help you, protect you from low frequency, fearful thoughts or energies. So I'll put my protection guide around me and I'll say, help me get through today, guide me. There's definitely ways to work with a protection guide, but it's very much about being an intermediary and absorbing the negative energies around you. Okay. Now, the next type of guide, I love these types of guides, and these guides work so much with me when I do client work. And these are ancestor guides. So ancestor guides are here to help you break intergenerational trauma and to amplify intergenerational gifts. So ancestor guides possibly have known you when you were a child, or they're part of your family lineage. So they truly understand the trauma that is in your family, or they understand the gifts that you might feel too afraid to use, maybe because you've even skipped a generation and you might have a beautiful singing voice, yet no one in your family does. I've had this with one client, and her aunt came through to say, you've got to use your voice. I had this voice too. So ancestor guides are so powerful because I've seen them work through me to really help the client, work through limiting beliefs or fear of really showing up or fear of really shining in the world, right? So they really recognize the suppression that might have happened in the family or the trauma that keeps them repeating. And if you're working with a medium or a spiritual teacher or a spiritual coach, or any mentor or coach is always in some sort of channel, right? They're probably working with some ancestor energy to help you to really break some traumatic intergenerational patterns. And this is the kind of work which excites me. And that's why I will call in ancestors of the light to work with me and a client, because I know they have the answers very quickly, specifically for the clients that I'm working with. They know exactly what to pinpoint. So call in your ancestor guides. And when I coaching my clients, I say, get a photo out of your grandparents if you feel like they're in your spirit team, or any family member. Get a photo out. It energetically creates a stronger link to connect to them, for them to help you. Okay, so that's ancestor guides. Now, the next guides are teacher guides. Now, if you are a coach or a teacher yourself, or you're writing a book or a podcast, there's a really good chance you're working with teacher guides. Now, teacher guides I find a little bit more transitional. When I wrote my book, I worked with 12 groups of consciousness. So my book is called Brave, Courageously Live Your Truth. Check it out on Amazon. And when I wrote that book, I called in as many guides of the light to work with me to help me channel, download, get inspired. I asked for signs about the next thing to write about, all with ease and grace and flow. And this book that I wrote felt so channeled and so collaborative. Like it literally felt like all these people helped write this book, and it was really my spirit team. So if you're writing or doing a podcast of your own, you're collaborating, invite in teaching guides to support you with the teachings that you're here to spread in the world. Okay, so that's teacher guides. We next have healing guides. So healing guides are here to help us heal in two ways. Firstly, if you are a healer, there is a very good chance that you are working with a healing guide. So if you're working with Reiki, you're working with the lineage of Reiki guides. If you're an energy healer or doing sacred geometry kind of healing or any kind of healing, you're working with guides to channel through healing energy from them. They're very high vibrational guides. But as a practitioner, you must always remember to call in your guides. If you don't know how to do that, please work with me or someone else that can show you how to call in your guides and your clients' guides. So quite often, I know when I first had my spiritual awakening, I didn't really get shown invocations or how to call in guides, and it was such a confusing time. That's why I wrote my program, Awakening Intuition, because I really wanted to show people there is structure around how to work in a spiritual space. I mean, I'm an ex-chartered accountant. I've done an MBA. I was like, where do you learn this? So that's why I wrote a program about it. So I'm giving you the tips and tricks today. There's a lot more in my course that you can access. So if you're a healer, call in the healing guides, call in the guides of the client. And also, if you are going through heartbreak, if you're going through a physical ailment, call in high guidance to help activate healing within the body. Even putting your hand on your body and activating the guides to heal through your hands is one way to do that. So always calling in guides of the light, of the light, of the light. We have to say it 3 times, just a universal law to always connect with the light. This is really a woo-woo podcast. I love the woo-woo. I speak about mindset and emotional resilience and all these corporate executive tools, but you cannot stop me from speaking about spiritual woo-woo stuff because I had an awakening when I had a corporate career, and I love supporting men and women that are having awakenings too, and everyone's like, we don't get you and we don't get what you're talking about. And so I'm really here. One of my big life purposes is to speak about kind of the things that people think are weird and to make it very mainstream, like ayahuasca, spirit guides, and also I'll talk about perfectionism and imposter syndrome and things like that. However, I love the spiritual woo-woo. Okay, so back on track. Healing guides are here to work with you, heal through, I guess, emotional pain and also physical pain. Okay, now moving on to starseed guides. I love starseed guides because this is really woo. So if you're listening to this podcast and I'm asking you a question, have you ever felt like you don't belong here on earth? So I'm asking you a question, just nod yes in the car or say yes to the person that's listening. Have you ever felt like you don't belong on earth? So when I was a child, I would honestly just feel like I'm here. I would say to people, why are we here? And it was like I knew that Earth was this place where isn't really home for me. And a lot of spiritually awakened people are realizing they've had past lives on starseed constellations on other planets, ancient civilizations, and starseed is one spiritual term that explains that you might have had a lifetime or have an origination from a starseed system. And these include Palladian, Orion, Sirian. And if you have had an incarnation on a starseed, there's a feeling of feeling alien or foreign. There's a feeling of not belonging. And there's a very good chance you'll meet other people from star seeds. So I went through a big activation many, many years ago, and I met all these Palladian people. And I've met Sirian and Orion, and they share going, yeah, I've read these books about these civilizations, and I feel like I'm one of them. Okay. So if that's resonating with you, that's a yes. And if it doesn't, that's okay. You might understand this a little later down your spiritual path. When I first heard the word starseed, I was skeptical. I was like, that is weird. That is weird that you could be an alien. But years later, I was like reading the book going, this makes sense to me. So if you are from a starseed, there's possibly a starseed guide or a group of guides working with you. And how are they working with you? Well, they're here to give you metaphysical, which means spiritual knowledge from that starseed. So if you are on your track to being a teacher or a healer or a breathwork facilitator or something like that, there's a very good chance if you're holding big groups that you're working with a consciousness that's going to help you. And you'll just get downloads and inspired thought when you're running sessions. Like you will literally just go, oh my gosh, where did that come from? You've ever had one of those moments, a star seed is working in your team to help give you information, and the information they're giving you is very high vibrational, high philosophy. And this is very much to help lift the planet's consciousness. But star seeds tend to have a flavor about them. It's a specific type of information you might get from that origin star seed constellation. Okay, and that leads me on to light being guides. So light being guides are very similar. They're not from a star seed, they're from higher dimensions. And these light beings, I work with sometimes when I speak, definitely when I write, and even when I'm doing my podcast, sometimes I'll just get a thought and I feel inspired to say it. So light being guides are very high vibrational. They may never have ever had an incarnation on Earth. They're working with you to impart really beautiful philosophy to help lift the planet's consciousness. Their teachings tend to be very simple, infused with love, infused with absolute forgiveness and unconditional love, absence of fear, absence of complete possibility. You'll know you're speaking through a light beings helping you when you're saying things that just people need to hear in the moment, and it helps people en masse, or maybe you're writing a blog or a social media post. So working with light beings is phenomenal. We then move on to nature spirits. So I find when people have humanitarian work, or they're very much working with, the planetary lines, conservation, global environmental issues, there's a very good chance they'll be working with nature spirits. I've actually been told, sometimes when you are very connected to the nature planes, you can look like a pixie. You might even look like a fairy. You might even just not feel your feet are on the ground. You might feel very ungrounded, like fairy-like, or the undying water spirits, or the spirits of fire or air. So I found on my spiritual path, as I've gone on, I've needed to connect to nature spirits more and more. I can't believe there was a time I wore high heels all day. My feet never touched the ground. I didn't even really swim at all. And I barely got out on a lunch break for fresh air. I can't believe I existed like that for so long. And these days, I live a literally 2-minute walk from the beach. I'm in the ocean quite often. I walk barefoot as much as I can, and just love sitting out in peace, breathing in fresh air. So the nature spirits work as you lift your frequency and consciousness to help you start to be more high vibrational, because as you have your awakening, your vibration is lifting higher and higher. So these types of guides are supporting you to purify your diet, conscious of your environment, realize that the law of one is always at play. So, we do something harmful to the environment, we're doing it to ourselves. The nature spirits really help us. And the nature spirits might tap you on your shoulder and give you a bit of a download. It's time to go for a walk, or this weekend you need to get out of the city and just drive and connect to nature. So they're calling, find the nature spirits call us to spend more time in nature. And is it 8? Have I done my 8? So they're the types of guides we can work with. And to be honest, there's angelic guides, of course, that are highlight being guides. And there's so many different mini micro classifications of guides. And as you listen to this, you might have your own guide you connect to. I've given you the 8 main types of guides just to help you, give you a bit of structure when you're connecting to your spirit guides. And next, I want to move on to, well, how can we work with our guides? Once we have an awakening, it's like we need to pass some initiation tests. And one test is the commitment to connect to the guides, not go back to sleep, but to actually stay awake and go, I really want to work on my vibration. And I really want to work with these guides to start taking my life in a new direction. Okay. And guides will take you to someone to help you heal your trauma. Guides will take you to the right therapist. The guides are always about your healing and evolution. I'm going to do a whole other podcast on spiritual bypassing. Connecting to guides is a part of the healing process. At some point, we will address our trauma and things like that. But as a part of the ascension and awakening, knowing there are energies around us is so important. Why do we suddenly connect to our guides when we awaken? Well, it's because our auric field starts to thin out. It starts to become clearer. When we awaken, there's like a pre-awakening process we do, and it tends to have a level of personal development. So we start to read books on personal development, listen to podcasts like even this one, and you start to believe more in who you are and that you have a unique purpose and that you are here to do something important with your life. Like, and that's when the soul contract starts coming into your consciousness. So when you do that, there's a feeling and a knowing of energy. That's when we become very sensitive too. So when our auric field starts to clean out, I call it, we start can feel energies around us. And we're like, well, what is that energy there? I can feel something around us. There's someone trying to help me. Or you might start having vivid dreams and have visitations in your dreams. Or you might start going to mediums that are bringing through or telling you about your guides around you. So there's a feeling of empowerment. So believe it or not, the empowerment path does involve reaching into your spirit teams and your guides to help you walk forward in an empowered way. And the reason why spirit guides are so important when you awaken, it's because we tend to be leaving behind us a life that no longer serves us. It could be a relationship, a toxic one, or a marriage we've outgrown, or a job that's no longer aligned to us, or a house we're living in where we're like, I don't want to live here anymore. And the guides come in when we awaken and go, okay, you've been asleep for a long time, you've been in a lot of pain, and we are now here to start making a course correction to your life in a new direction. Okay. And that's why the guides come in around, especially when we awaken, because it is time to probably start making some big changes in our life. And that's why I speak so passionately about guides, because so many people find the awakening process so confusing. And I know I did. That's why I wrote my book, Brave, Courageously Live Your Truth. And there's a whole chapter about receiving signs from the universe, connecting to guides. So check it out if you're having an awakening and you're like, how do I navigate becoming brave and courageous and really leaning in to the most authentic version of me? I give you literally the pathway, and I call it the courageous path, because you need courage to walk forward, in your life, completely honoring who you are, because it's going to involve letting people go, letting jobs go, letting old identities of ourself go. I know I had to do that. And that's where spirit guides come in, because they're literally trying to guide us. This whole team, if we only knew how big the team of guides was around us, we'd be shocked. So when our clients come to speak to me and come to have sessions with me, I'm like, you've got this guide here and that one talking, and your grandma's behind. And especially when clients don't see mediums very often, I find all the guides are talking in my ears, trying to get a word in, because I don't know when when their relative or loved one's going to come back again. So I'm there trying to literally give as much information as I can in a very short space of time. So the way you can connect to your own guides is by a morning meditation. There's one on my website. You can check it out. It's about like a 15-20 minute meditation. So powerful morning spirit guide meditation where you invite the guides into your day ahead in the quietest, most powerful time of the day, which is when you wake up, whether it's 5 or 6 or 7 a.m. There's a stillness in the air, and it's probably one of the easiest times to connect to the guides. Saying an invocation or an intention for what that connection looks like, and asking, this is one of the really basic things, asking in the day ahead, so many signs, so much synchronicity, so many miracles that bring you in alignment with your purpose. So this sounds a bit radical, right? What I'm saying, like, could I really ask for that? Yes, you can ask for that. You can ask for that. It's called spiritual self-esteem. You can ask for your guides to bring you and help you and assist you when you're in a crisis, or you're going through a dark time, or you are lacking clarity in your life. Your guides are here to help you get clear. Another thing I do with my guides is I say, I'm not clear about this part of my business. Please bring me in. Align me to the person who I need to contact that will help me with this problem I'm facing in my business. And literally, someone on Messenger will randomly message me, or I'll see someone and they'll say they're working with this person, and I'll get a download to work with them. So the minute you start connecting to your guides and asking for guidance, it comes in. It's the law of free will. So we're here to grow and evolve. We're only going to grow and evolve if we know, A, the way we are operating in our life is not working anymore, and B, we need to be empowered and move out of victim mode and make the changes ourselves, and then be brave enough to move into action to make those changes consistently so they become permanent and the new direction of your life starts to unravel. Okay. So I said a lot then. Hopefully this makes sense, but that's very much what the spirit guides are here to do. And that's why there's such a word that is used when we awaken, because when we are unawake, we are really connecting to the guides. We're connecting to our ego, and we're connecting to limiting beliefs or an identity that we believe is so important, right? So I think that pretty much covers off spirit guides. It's a topic I am passionate about purely because it is probably one of the top 5 questions I get asked as a teacher, as a medium, as an even executive coach. Do you know how many executives I mentor and coach that ask me about spirituality? When I speak at the Mind Body Spirit Festival and spiritual festivals, but my favorite is when I speak at these kind of more corporate events, and people come up to me, and not just one, many people come up to me and ask me about mediumship and channeling and spirit guides. It's like they're dying to know. And in this year, like this, since COVID, since then, so many people have had a spiritual awakening that this stuff is becoming so much more normal. So I really hope that this podcast about spirit guides has helped you. If you have any questions, please reach out to me directly, ask me them. I can do another episode about them. And I'm probably going to do an episode about how does it feel to connect to guides? And if you are a practitioner or a coach or a teacher yourself, how can you start connecting to clients' guides to really start bringing in more information for them? So just remember, you're here to build your spiritual self-esteem. You're here to be brave, be bold, be courageously you. I hope this podcast helped you, and I'm sending you so much love today. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. I love you. I'm filled with gratitude for you. I honor you for choosing you, your personal growth, and your evolution. Thank you for letting me into your world. It has been a privilege. Now do me one favor, one big thing. Share this podcast